Welcome to this deep dive presented by Safety One Source. Today we're really getting into the weeds on a key part of OSHA compliance section 1910.9. If you're listening, you're probably a safety professional, maybe you're a risk manager or someone looking to sharpen that safety knowledge. This one's definitely for you.
Absolutely. And our mission today is to unpack this idea of a separate compliance duty. It sounds a bit technical, maybe, but it's fundamental when we talk about personal protective equipment, PPE, and also required training.
Right. Understanding it is, well, it's critical for preventing violations, isn't it? Not just checking a box.
Exactly. It goes deeper than that.
Okay, so let's start with the PPE side. That's 1910.9a. The core idea seems straightforward. Employers have to provide the required PPE.
It does seem simple on the surface, but, the crucial phrase here is OSHA's emphasis on a separate compliance duty with respect to each employee.
Okay. So it's not just a general requirement.
No, precisely. The regulation itself spells it out. Each failure to provide PPE to an employee may be considered a separate violation.
Wow. Okay, let's translate that. For someone managing safety on site, what does that actually look like day to day? I mean, you try to have gear available.
Right, but think about, say, mandatory hard hats in a specific zone. If an OSHA inspector sees 3 employees working in that zone without their required hard hats, they aren't necessarily just citing one general failure of the hard hat policy. They could potentially cite 3 separate violations, one for each employee lacking the required protection.
So the violation count could multiply based on the number of affected employees.
That's the potential, yes. It really highlights that the duty is focused on ensuring each individual is equipped. It's not enough to just have a supply closet full of gear somewhere.
That really shifts the perspective on enforcement and I guess on our internal checks too. Now, does this same individual focus carry over to the training requirements in 1910.9b?
It absolutely does. The principle is identical. Employers must train employees on the hazards they face and, the relevant safety procedures.
And the standard uses similar language about individual duty.
Yes, very similar. It states that each failure to train an employee in the manner required may be considered a separate violation.
So again, it's not just about having a training program.
Correct. You might have, say, a really comprehensive lockout-tagout training module, great program. But if you have even one authorized employee who hasn't completed that specific required training and is performing LODO tasks,
that one employee represents a potential violation.
Exactly. That single failure to train that specific individual could be cited separately, even if 99 other employees are perfectly trained.
Okay, so the big takeaway here for all of us in safety and risk management roles is that OSHA's looking really closely at the individual.
That's the core message. It's individual accountability for the employer. Are you providing the necessary PPE to each person who needs it? Have you ensured each relevant employee received the required training?
It's not a blanket check, it's person by person.
Precisely. It's about the actual delivery and completion for every single worker.
So, as you're listening to this, it's probably a good moment to think about your own systems. How are you actually tracking this? Are your records for PPE issue, for training completion, robust enough to demonstrate compliance for each employee?
That's the key question. And maybe consider, where in your specific operations could this distinction be most critical? Where might a gap between a general policy and individual fulfillment lead to, well, not just citations, but actual harm?
Definitely food for thought. That really clarifies the weight of that separate compliance duty. Thanks for breaking that down.
Glad to help. It's a small section, 1910.9, but the implications are significant.